turn this music down so I don't get copyrighted, but we will be listening to some anime music. And let me fix this screen here. Give me a second. Much better, much better. Let me hit the chat filter so I can get all the chat chat room replies until I have to not get them. My little my little Lucky Charm guy there. My little lion. I don't know what they call those things. It's a body of a lion and a dragon and serpent. I don't know what you call those in Chinese mythology. But in any case, we gonna start it off. So thank you for whoever gave me the like. Let's get at least let's get at least 20 likes today. How about that? Let's try to get 20 likes if we can. Let's get 20 likes. Definitely would like to hear people's opinions on this. So this live stream won't be to make fun of women. The purpose of this is not to make fun of women. The purpose is to clarify some points because I made a YouTube short that was less than 30 seconds long. Mona said, "Let's get 40 likes." I'm with you. Let's get 40, and let's get a super chat too, guys. Let's get at least 2 super chats today. Let's get at least 2 super chats, at least 20 likes. Moonlit says 40. Okay, and let's get some replies. So I made a I make snarky YouTube shorts because they get attention that way. And one of them I was saying that hey, you know, there are still delusional women out there who are in their middle years still thinking they have the same options as a young woman, and that's just patently false. What's up, Met Group? Um, and you know, shout out to the state of Kevin Samuels. Rest in peace to him. He made these issues quite salient, and some women still don't get it. That's because they don't want to get it. But we're gonna go through it. We're going to go through it, guys. Um, Mind you, the 2 women giving me pushback not only are friends of mine, but they're overseas, so they probably are unaware of the red pill movement here in America, much less Kevin Samuels, who has had a huge following amongst young men, not even just black men, men in general. Like there are men who are Asian, Latino, and white who follow him. I hate him on it. So um I said, and I said what I said. I'm going to restate it here. Like a woman who's in their 40s and 50s and shit 60s as well, thinking they still have the options of a young woman is just delusional. And these women was like, "Oh, you're bashing these, you're women bashing." I'm like, "No, I'm not. How's that women bashing to say that you don't have the same options in your 50s that you had in your 20s? That's just common sense. That's not woman bashing. Like there are trade-offs and there are things that we simply can't do sometimes because we chose other options in our lives. So if you choose one door that closes that that you know clearly that means that the other doors are closed to you after you've chosen that one door and you went down that path, right? Life is like a choose your own adventure book. But once you choose that certain path, you can't go back to the starting point and then say, "Oh no, I want to choose this door instead." No, you just gotta keep treading down that pathway. Look, I'm in my late 40s, and looking at looking at my life now, I would have loved to have been a world champion fighter in kickboxing, or Muay Thai, or Sanda, which is Chinese kickboxing with elements of MMA in it. Um, but I didn't choose that path. I had that option open to me almost 30 years ago, which is when I should have chosen that path. But I didn't. So that 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 option is closed to me now. Likewise, when I was in the army, now I wish I could have became a soft commando. But to have become a soft commando would have been an option that I would have needed to prepare for like almost 30 years ago. And I didn't choose that option when I was in the army. I chose the easy path, and I just skated while I was in the military. I'll admit that. I skated. People in the military know what I mean when I say I skated. But for me to be now in my late 40s and say, well, I'm just going to re-enlist, and now I'm gonna go into soft. That's quite unrealistic, very unrealistic. And anyone who heard me saying so would tell me, um, is it impossible? No, but just because something is just because something is possible doesn't mean it's probable. And people like to make people like to muddy that distinction all the time. They think just because something is possible, it is probable. It's not. Something can be genuinely possible while being very improbable. It's physically possible for me right now to go run a triathlon, but is it very probable? No, I'm not prepared to do that. So these women are being delusional. If you are in your 40s and 50s and 60s, which means you're Gen X, or you're like you're Gen X, or you might even be teetering towards the boomer side, and now you want to get into a relationship, you're delusional. At this point, you need to be throwing it at someone because no one's willing to buy. No one's taking it up. Kevin Samuels made that crystal clear once. He's like 30 discount, 40 like uh what do you say, 40 like rent, I don't know. Yeah, 30 he's like is a discount. 40 was what what's below discount, guys? Like when you like when someone's damn near about to throw something away. That was 50s though. When he said 50s, just give it away for like 5 cents or something like that. But anyway, I'm not going to butcher what he said because it's funnier the way he said it. So I'm not going to try to read. Um, I'm not going to try to do it justice right here when I can't remember how he said it verbatim. But yeah, like, and the people I see him giving me pushback, like I said, were two friends of mine, but neither one of them are in a position to challenge what I said. One, because they're not a man, and two, they're not American. And it's like I'm not throwing stones to try to insult either one of them. The other one was more offended about me talking about religion, and that had nothing to do with the that had nothing to do with the video when I said if you are in your 40s. So I said if you are in your 40s and 50s, right, and you are still looking for the right man, I was like, well, just keep waiting and you will eventually find him. His name is Jesus, and he'll be with you shortly because you are already halfway through your life. Like, that's just ridiculous. And so one friend got offended because I brought up the religious issue, and because she's I want to be nice. She's crashing out recently, and it, well, here she is. We're not talking about someone. Miss Nita, we're not talking about someone dying. You keep missing the point. You're missing the tree for the forest. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about death. Death is on your mind because of your situation. That's not what we're talking about here. The point is modern women are delusional. They think they have the same options throughout life, and they don't. Again, no one has the same options throughout life. Those things change. In my 20s, I had plenty of options where I could have been a competitive fighter, or I could have went into soft command when I was in the army. And I didn't choose those paths back then when I had that option open to me. So now in my late 40s, I can't say, well, I still want to do that. That's not realistic. The same thing for them. A postmenopausal woman does not have the same options for a man that a 21-year-old woman does. She simply doesn't. She's less attractive. She's less fertile. And most men don't want her. You don't, it's like you just manifestly don't understand male psychology. No man is pining for 50-year-old women. They're simply not. That was the point. We're not talking about death. We're not talking about Jesus. That was just a joke. And it's a joke that's commonly made in the red pill, but you don't understand red pill stuff because you don't watch it. You don't watch red pill content, so you don't understand the joke. That is a common joke within the red pill space, where people that I did not invent that joke. So you keep missing the tree for the forest with that joke. No, I'm getting tired of it, Moonlit. Like she keeps talking like we're not all of us here are on our deathbed, so we're not thinking about that. I'm sorry. That's not the point. That was not the point of the joke. The point the point of the joke is you don't have the same options throughout life. And modern Western women think think they have the same options throughout life. And you simply don't. We okay, no one cares about death, Miss Needle. We're not talking about death. You are preoccupied with death. We are not. And could is just a weasel word. I wish some of y'all learn logic. Just because you can do something doesn't mean it's going to happen. We here over here on this channel, we deal in logic and reason and evidence. We don't deal in religion. We don't deal in weasel words saying, well, it could or it might or it may. Well, it may rain tomorrow mayonnaise, but that's probably not going to happen. I don't deal in eternity. I deal in reality. So that's the difference. Eternity is something made up to pacify silly people who don't have. It was made up by the powerful people to pacify silly people. We're going to treat you like trash here in the world because we can, and then we're going to tell you, well, your piece of the pie is in the hereafter. People should get people should be offended by that. Okay, well, we're not talking about death anymore. You can keep talking about death. That's not the point of this stream. The point of the stream is talking about people who are delusional and but otherwise sane. Okay, you harping them on death. You need to go speak with a therapist. Seriously, it's getting real weird at this point. Just saying, it's getting really weird. You should talk to a therapist. In any case, someone in their 50s or heaven forbid 60s thinking I'm going to find the right man now. No, that's crazy. And you have several different types of women who think this. They're all delusional, but in different ways. I'm not saying you're mentally insane. I'm saying you need to talk with someone professionally because you are crashing out over something no one brought up but you. No one brought up death but you are crashing out over something that you've talked about on your own. That was not the point. And I was saying you're missing the tree for the forest. It was merely a joke to allude to the fact that you don't always have the same options throughout life. That was the point. It was not about death. And I think I've made that crystal clear. You fail to see that because you don't want to see it. You are crashing out over something that personally affects you and you need to speak with someone professionally about it. That's all I'll say about that. Don't care. That's irrelevant. Irrelevant. Red herring. We don't do red herrings here. Anywho, so there are some quite, let me say this, there are some quite attractive middle-aged women. Has anyone seen Toni Braxton's Instagram? She was killing it. She looks better than some Gen Zers. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna hold you on that. Holly Berry still looks stunning. She has to be like 60 or so now. Moonlit, there's no chill here. I'm on my platform talking. She's talking about death. Like she needs to go talk with someone. She needs to talk with a professional therapist. I'm not. I don't. We don't do that over here. No one told her she had to come here and talk that mess. Ashanti. Ashanti is. I'm pretty sure she's younger than me. Not sure. I think she's between 44, 45. But yeah, there are some really attractive middle-aged women. But again, they don't have the same options as younger women. Luckily, Ashanti it hasn't hit the wall. I think she and Nelly are married now. Well, I know they have a child together, but I think they got married, or they're still, or they at least they're still in a long-term relationship. Um, but the point is, and Marcus, I hope you're watching, bro. You told me crash out on something. Here we are. So, unfortunately, you told me to have the candles and all that good stuff. I don't have the candles. Don't have the 3-piece button suit. Not today, anyway. Maybe another time. Can you dig it? It's Doug, bro. You know what I'm saying? Now look at these times they. So, sorry about that. That was an something I was doing with what's that movie? The Black Dynamite. Awesome movie. Anywho, that's what you probably heard in the background. As far as not the anime music, which is still playing. But anyway, back to the subject. So there are some stunning women, but we laugh at some of these women who think they still have the same options they had 20, 30 years ago. If you are a Gen X woman, you're in your late 40s, somewhere between your late 40s to late 50s, maybe even early 60s. You had the time in which you could have found a man in the 90s, in the 2000s, in the 99 and the 2000s. That was your era. Melissa says, okay, question: when younger males and women act like they. Well, let me get to that later because I don't want to get off track first. Just remind me in a few minutes. I'm trying to I'm trying to cook here. I don't want to get off track because I already got off track because she started talking more like I don't want to talk about morbid death and stuff. She can do that on her own. She has a channel. Why don't she talk about morbid stuff like that on her live stream? I don't go to anyone's channel and divert what they're talking about to talk about something morbid just because I'm preoccupied with the thought of death. Like that's just weird. Like someone's talking about food and the person comes on and say, well, one day you could just die and never get to enjoy that food. Like, okay, so like that has nothing to do with anything. So anyway, switch it up here. So anime music. So Gen X's the women, their era was in the 90s and the 2000s. Yes, there is a time limit in which you can find a suitable partner. There are there are critical periods for a lot of things in life. So one like an common example is like bird songs. In birds, there's a critical period in which a young bird can learn the song for its species, which typically the male bird has to learn in order to attract a mate. If he does not adequately learn the song of species within that critical period of time, they won't learn it or won't learn it correctly, and so will be inept and able to finding a suitable mate. In people, there's a critical period in which we can learn language. If we don't learn it within that time frame, we will still have the ability for speech and all of that, but to adequately talk like a normal person will be it, it, it will be thwarted. Okay. Finding partners. This is what Kevin Samuels used to talk about, the sexual marketplace. In the sexual marketplace, the the man's value is in his resources. In a sexual marketplace, the female's wealth is in their beauty. Beauty fades. Likewise, not all men attain adequate resources. These are just these are just facts of the matter. Okay. Now, kept people thought that Kevin was really hard on the women. What they didn't understand was he was harder on the men, but they took it on the chin. Like some of them bucked at him, but for the most part, the men understood that they can't have it all. But Western women, whether you're in the UK, the US, Germany, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, they think they can have it all. They've been taught they can have it all, and that's just not realistic. There are always trade-offs. There are always trade-offs. I need some more likes, guys. Need some more likes. But there are always likes. Someone asked what is my favorite color. I don't have one. But hello, Kaylee. Uh, there are always trade-offs, guys. To act like there aren't trade-offs is unrealistic. Here, I've made it clear on my channel for the past 3 years what my personal belief set is. I am someone who prides himself on being a scientific person, having a scientific worldview, someone who puts reason above all else. Um, and I have and I advocate for skepticism. That is a modest form of skepticism where we demand that there be ample evidence for the claims that people um, give us, or for our own claims, because it's easy to just because it's easiest to deceive yourself. So, in that vein, guys, this is what we're talking about. So, so when I was alluding to several minutes ago before I crashed out, is there are several different types of women who now are in their middle years, they can't accept the fact that they don't still have the same options as a younger woman. There's one so one of them is the woman with the pretty privilege. This is the one who was a dead knockout in her teens, in her 20s, in her 30s, and she might still be pretty, rather pretty now in her 40s, maybe even early 50s. But she doesn't have that same. But being that that was the only thing, uh, the only thing she had going for her was her beauty. She had nothing else going for her. Like, pretty privilege is not pretty privilege doesn't last. And one of the worst things is to see someone who's always skated by on their attractiveness, and now their attractiveness starts to fade and they can't handle it. So that's one type. uh and another type is the one who may have made it. They may have gotten married and had kids, but that marriage didn't last, for whatever reason. Maybe the husband passed away, maybe he left her. Although statistically, at least here in the West, most divorces are usually precipitated by the wife, not by the husband. So, um, now they're back on the market, but they don't realize now, as a 40 or 50 or 60-year-old divorcee with kids, maybe even grandkids, you don't have much. Your that your value in the sexual marketplace isn't the same. And I want to make this clear: when I'm talking about someone's value in the sexual marketplace, I'm not talking about their intrinsic worth. I'm talking about their their marketplace value on the dating scene. Okay. So just like we would say that someone's financial net worth isn't their intrinsic worth, like your your worth to the rest of society, or to your family and your friends, is not embodied in your financial net worth, right? We know that, or we should know that, right? Likewise, your value in the sexual marketplace is not the same as your intrinsic value. Okay, so I want to make that clear, because people always like to muddy that, and people used to always play that game with Kevin Samuels on his channel. I haven't checked out the comics yet, brother. But so again, so you have the divorcees, somewhere between the 40s and 60s. They're back on the they're back on the dating scene, but they don't have the same value as they did 20, 30 years ago. They're older, they have kids, they have they have emotional baggage. Guys don't want that. Now, again, someone's going to say, well, there's some guys who love cougars and stuff like that. Yeah, there's some guys who love cougars or gilfs, whatever you want to call them. But that is a fetish. That is not that is not that is not within the normal reign of sexual expectations of young men, or even of men their age. Typically, men of those older years prefer a slightly younger woman, and younger men usually prefer women of their own age. This is why there's shame going on with age gap dating, because it disenfranchises both the older women who want the same men of their own age, and it disenfranchises the younger men who want the women of their own age. But facts over feelings, guys. Like, uh, through evolutionary history and through the science of and through the psychology of relationships, the age gap relationships are the healthiest type of relationship, all other things being equal. Um, and I mean, so Miss Needle's right. Loyalty is definitely a virtue above just beauty. She's absolutely right about that. Again, beauty fades, but certain But some virtues are everlasting: loyalty, being feminine, inspirational, loyal, having a low body count. Something, another thing, a lot of modern women miss. So this is the third type. So the third type of woman is the one who's been riding the cock carousel for like 25 years, and now she hops off and now she's ready for a man. No, ma'am. Nobody wants to throw a hot dog through the hallway because now you're ready to commit after you've had more bodies on you than the entire Delta Force. No, no, no one wants a middle-aged woman who's slept with thousands of men. And you think I'm exaggerating? There are women who've. I'm not talking about these OnlyFans girls, and I'm not talking about sex workers. I'm talking about regular women have body counts in the hundreds to thousands. Nowadays, women have a higher body count than men. I'm gonna say I always wanted to smash a midget. Yeah, I mean, again, right, but that's a like I said, that's a fetish. It's not within the normal expectations. So if I'm gonna put on my psychology cap, like you have your normal range of sexual desires, then you have paraphilias and fetishes. There's a fine line between fetish and pedophilia. I mean, sorry, not meant to. I don't want to use that word because I don't want to get demonetized. Uh, um, paraphilias. There's different types, like someone who wants elderly women. I want to keep it safe, so we're not going to talk about certain things. So I don't want to get demonetized. So people who maybe have a thing for elderly women, that's a that's outside the normal range of sexual expectations. Okay, midgets. Well, I don't want to say little people. Let's be nice. Um, yeah. Rescue says an older woman with baggage is still a viable option if she is loyal, honest, and has a good heart. Well, if she has baggage, she's probably not going to have those, though, by definition, brother. So, again, given the the other part that's missing in what I'm talking about with these women is they have high expectations of whom they find a suitable mate, but again, they don't have the options to find the optimal mate at their age. This is the problem. I'm telling all of you folks. So it's not just that they can't find a mate; they can't find a mate of the caliber of which they want. They want higher value men, but the higher value men aren't going to want some 50-year-old woman. Okay. So we get to the fourth type. The fourth type is someone who may or may not have ridden the carousel in life, may or may not have been, married, had kids, whatever. But they decided somewhere in their life, somewhere in their 20s or 30s, that they were going to be celibate. Mind you, they're not virgins, but they decided to be celibate. And now, and now they desire a man to date them, but only one who's going to be with them, who's going to marry them before they give the cookie away. And it's like, no, ma'am, in your 40s or 50s, you need to be throwing that shit. You need to be throwing that shit at men because there ain't no guy sitting there trying to wait to get the cookie from a 40, 50-year-old woman because she decided to be celibate for 10, 20 years. That's ridiculous. That's, again, Kevin Samuels touched on that too. This is why The Godfather remains undefeated. The Godfather remains undefeated. I'm not as eloquent as he is, not as suave, but I embody the same message that he has. And again, it's not, again, folks, it's not, listen, chat, it's not that these women can't find men, it's that they're not going to be able to find the type of men that they want. That's the key word, that they want. They think in their 40s and 50s they can still get a, a Chris Hemsworth. Name some other desirable bachelor. A Chris Pine. We can keep naming Chris's, right? Chris Evans. Yes, these are all people in the MCU. Sorry, I'm a nerd. Um, but yes, they think that the same men they would have had access to in their 20s, they still have access to in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and that's just patently absurd. Nope, it's just as absurd as I mentioned this before in the previous video, for an elderly man thinking a 21-year-old woman finds him desirable. No, they don't. Like if you're if you're a 60, 70, 80-year-old man, that woman is dating you for your resources. And that's it. She may come to like or love you as well, but there's no but she there was no physical desire upon that whole engagement of that relationship. Is not. So you can't be so an elderly man can't be talking about all women are gold diggers when you already have a fucking foot in the grave and you're talking about, oh, they only after me for my money, because then you don't have anything else. You are halfway, you have a foot in the grave, walking around with a pot belly, you probably haven't seen your dick in the last 30 years, sitting there popping statins to keep your blood pressure down like it's Skittles. And you're like, I need to find a woman who's right for me. Most people are rightly, most people would see how patently absurd that guy is. You would patently see how absurd a 75-year-old obese man popping statins for his heart disease can't see his gray dick and talking about he needs a woman to he needs to find a woman who loves him for him and not for his money. We will see how freaking absurd that was. But for some reason, women don't see it on the opposite side, because women in the West have been taught they can have everything, and it's just patently false. It's just patently false, and they lash out at people when they're reminded of that inconvenient truth. Having a past does not define the totality of our existence. That's You're missing the point, brother. It's not. It defines totality of experience. Personal accountability. Accountability is like kryptonite to modern Western women and to some men as well. You can't you can't sit there you can't sit there and murder 30 people in the past and say, well, that was in the past. That doesn't define who I am now. Yes, the fuck it does. That's just absurd. If you were riding the cock carousel for 30 years, now all of a sudden you're gonna be like, well, now I'm ready to settle down. No, the fuck ain't no one trying to settle down with you, Miss Chokes on Dick. No, that's not how it's going down. No one. That's this is patently absurd. Like I said, everyone can see the absurdity when a man does it. When men are unrealistic, they will get called out on it quickly, quickly, with the quickness. But when you call out women for the same absurdity, all of a sudden, oh, you're a woman basher, or that's not fair. Life ain't fair, or um, well, that wasn't the past. What about now? I'm sorry. The choices you make shape the consequences that you have in the future. Again, I wish I had trained to be a competitive fighter. Maybe it could have been a world champion kickboxer or Thai boxer or something like that. I didn't go down that pathway, so now I can't complain that, well, I should still have the option to be able to to compete on a championship level. No, I don't. that avenue is closed to me because I didn't choose that path to go down in the past. Or, I wish I became a soft commando. I didn't choose that path when I was in the military. I skated. So I can't say, well, I want to go re-enlist because I should be still be able to qualify for those qualifications to get into the to get into soft. No, it's too late for that. Or again, an elderly man talking about, you know, this woman, you know, I want this 25-year-old woman, but only if she loves me for me and not for my money. Like, no, no. And there's a lot of people on social media who are just, I'm just gonna call it bluntly. Some of y'all, some people here on social media are retarded. Retarded. Unlike Kevin Samuels, I will not be drinking Red Bulls all night long trying to educate stupid people because he did that for 3 years and became very wealthy as a result, but it killed his health. I will not be doing it. I will not be chugging down Red Bulls all night long, talking to stupid people, trying to convince them that they can't have it all, that they have to have realistic expectations, that there are trade-offs to everything you do in life, that the things you do in the past affect who you are in the future. People who can't handle that, too bad. Facts over feelings. Facts aren't designed to be nice. Now, again, some of these now, and this even comes from a religious perspective. If you're from a religious bent, religion teaches us the same things. The things you do, you know, shape the consequences you have in the future. Now, yes, in certain religious faiths, there is there is a way to make amends. There are ways to make amends, right? However, if you don't make amends, if you refuse to take personal accountability in certain religious faiths, to the hellfire you go, right? To the hellfire you go. You must take at some point, at some point you have to take personal accountability for the mistakes that you made. You can't sit there and lash out at everyone else for the mistakes that you made and then say that they're wrong because you refuse to take accountability for the things you did. And that goes to the fifth type. Fifth type of woman, the one who's never been married but had multiple children, usually by multiple men, and now they want a man to take care of them and her bastards. No one's I'm sorry, twerk Keisha. No one's coming to save you and your 5 kids. We don't want to take care of little Gloctavius and Fel Antonio. Should have thought about that before you gave him kids. And this is why when men start saying, "What do you bring to the table?" This is one of those issues because one of the most important things you could bring to the table for a man is a womb to give him his seed. But you've already given away the most precious thing you could to men who you don't even care about. And now you want another man to be a cleanup man and take care of these kids for you. No, absolutely not. No, no single man who who has no kids should be a cleanup man for a woman who fucked up her life having multiple kids by Pookie and Ray Ray. Like, and again, I made this crystal clear in a previous live stream. Black men are the only men in any ethnic group where they're expected to be the cleanup men in the community, where they're supposed to come and save these ratchet women from their mistakes. Like they're supposed to come in and be stepdaddies. In no other community is it preached that you should be a stepdaddy except in the black community. And that's something else. Again, Kevin Samuels touched on. The Godfather was right. Now I don't agree with Kevin on everything, just in case someone says, well, you're just acting like you're his little acolyte that you know. I disagree with him on some significant things. I've even mentioned them in previous videos. But we can disagree on minor things by agreeing on the larger scheme of things. And this is where we agree by and large on most of those things. Like, so again, these five types of women are delusional. They are delusional. We're not, well, he said, can we agree men do that too, though? No, no, we're not going to do that here because we're not going to play this both sidism. I'm tired of that shit. Women, women just going to have to take the dose. They're going to have to take this dose. They're going to have to take this dose of reality. We're not going to do this both sidism thing. Men do it too, though. Okay, that's not the point. We're not talking about men. We're talking about women. Again, everyone holds men accountability for that. Excuse me, accountable for their mistakes. Everyone holds men accountable for their mistakes. Women, but this is why we're not going to do, but men do that too, right? Because men are always held accountable for their mistakes. Women aren't. They're told they can have it all, and it's just not true. They want to lash out at everyone else when they're reminded that no, you cannot have it all. You can't. Hey, Agatha, she's all the way in Taiwan. Ni hao. Gotta go back to Taiwan. Very nice there. One that says, but that there's people who put the P on a pedestal. Yeah. Again, this this issue wouldn't be such a problem if there weren't so many simps out there. Simps mess the game up. Simps mess up the rotation. Simps will make these women think, oh, it's okay that you have multiple children by different baby daddies because the simp is still hoping he's still going to get some. So he'll tell her whatever she wants to hear. He'll tell her whatever she needs to hear in the hopes that he's going to get some. But the thing is, most of those women don't want the simps. They want the guys who are red pilled. They want the guys who are like, no. But what it is, they want those red pill guys to think like simps, which is again not very rational. They don't want the simps. They want the guys. They want masculine traditional guys, but they want them to think like a simp, act like a man, think like a simp. That's what they want. They want a man who acts like a man and thinks like a simp. It doesn't work that way. You don't get a traditional man who has modern man behaviors. Traditional men have traditional behaviors. Modern men have modern behaviors. Those are the things that define who they are. Like I said once on The Dark Knight, it's not who I am on the inside, but what I do that defines me. So a lot of these women, Delulu, they want the traditional man, but they want that traditional man to think like a modern simp. Doesn't work that way. On the other hand, sometimes they ended up settling down, what they consider settling down. We just saying we would otherwise just say they were having realistic, they had a realistic matchup, a realistic. So for them, settling down with these simps is a step down. So now they want the simps to act more like traditional men. It's like you can't have it both ways. You can't have a simp who behaves like a traditional man, and you can't have a traditional man who behaves like a simp. He said no nobody any race, huh? Sorry, I can't understand that. The Thailand sister, but yeah, I'm good. He's speaking to Agatha. Needle says when most men don't stay and not loyal. Again, I'm not def- I'm not defending bad men. That's not the again. That's not. It just seems like she's going out of her way to misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not defending bad men or mediocre men. That's not the point of this. What I'm saying is modern women are delusional because they've been taught they can have it all and they can't. And they hit the wall. And that's why we call it hitting the wall after the age of 35, because they realize that all those unrealistic expectations are just that. They're unrealistic. And they lash out, or or they crash out when they find out that they can't have it all. They realize now in their 40s and 50s they can't find the same type of guy they could get in their 20s. J Lo is running out of options. She has collected enough engagement rings to activate her infinity gauntlet, but she still wants more. It's over for her. It's over for Holly Berry. Like these two are the modern day. Uh, what was her name? The chick that JFK had one of his affairs with. At one of his affairs because he had many. But yeah, um, uh, someone will remind me in the chat. But yeah, you cannot have it all, guys. Like I said, chat, we're not going to do but men do it too right, because we already know that men do it too right and they face the consequences of those actions. But women are taught they don't have consequences for their actions. They can fuck around for decades and think they still gonna find a man. And sometimes they will. All other things being equal, usually they don't. But sometimes all things aren't equal. Sometimes they may be an exceptionally feminine and beautiful and inspirational person. They just happen to make a lot of bad choices. I noticed for I noticed for instance with a old friend of mine in high school, this cute Chinese girl. Uh, she was quite frisky, okay, and she went through a lot of men. I saw her again in college. You know, I guess she was still dating. I was hoping she got out of her freak out phase. The funny thing is, most people go through their freak out phase in college. She went through her freak out phase in high school. So by the time it was out, she was in her early 30s. My friend told me she was married. I'm like, Amy? He was like, yeah, man, Amy's married. And we both laughed because we both know her history. I was like, wow, someone settled down with her? He's like, yeah, man, I don't know. I guess so. I was like, wow. So yeah, it does happen. So yes, it does happen. Someone might ride the carousel for many, many, many years and then still end up with a good husband. You know why? Because probably they have other good virtues. But if you don't have good virtues, you just have some good cha cha. That's not good enough. There's billions of women with good cha cha. It is not enough. The moon says hit that like, guys, sub and share. Miss Needle says women want loyal men. Do they? Not really. It, some do, sure, but most of them want resources. We're talking about modern Western women. That's what you would probably want, Miss Needle, because you are a traditional, somewhat traditional person, right? All other things being equal, somewhat traditional. Um, but a lot of women have openly said they want high earning men, and knowing that high earning men are the rarity and not are the exception and not the rule, they're willing to share these men with other women just so they could have access to his resources. If that was the case, then we wouldn't have all the shenanigans with Future. These women know his these women know his MO. They know his modus operandi. They know he hits it and quits it and puts a baby in you and moves on to the next woman. And they keep getting with him anyway. Same thing with Nick Cannon. They know Nick Cannon's all about pushing that seed up in them and moving on to the next. They still keep getting with him anyway because they want access to his resources. They give him a kid, they know that they're set for life. Um, what's the other little dude, the dude with the big peanut head that um um uh I can't remember his name, but yeah, he hits it and quits it, moves on, gets multiple women. They know they, but after they did that to the second woman, they know better. The first woman, sure, you didn't know any better. Second woman, okay, coincidence. By the third woman, you know these people's MO, but they still want that same guy because they want someone with resources. Again, guys, guys, value in the sexual marketplace is predicated on their resources. Okay, women's value in the sexual marketplace is on their beauty. This now, this is just a cold calculus of dating and relationships. This doesn't obviously account for all the other factors out there. Uh, Mona says no offense to females, men want loyal women. Exactly. That's not a one-way street. The loyalty thing. That's sort of a two-way sort of thing, right? Missy says, so you excuse cheating because they only care about money. That's not what I'm saying. I, please, please stop with the red herrings and giving me straw man. I have not defended cheating once in this whole stream, nor in any other video I've done. Now, Kevin has. Kevin said men, high value men, have the right to exercise their options. I don't agree with that. And his friend Dennis Sperling didn't agree with it either. He said, men, be loyal to your women, be loyal to your wife, be loyal to your girlfriend. But Kevin used to say, hey, because high value men are so exceedingly rare, and when he says high value, he's not just talking about money, he's talking about certain virtues as well, right? He was saying because the high value man is so rare, like a high value man, again, this is a concept he didn't invent himself. This is a concept that came out of the 80s, okay? But being that high value men are the modern day equivalent of nobility, they are rare. And being a high value man gives you access to a lot of things, including women. So they have options. But he said whether they exercise their options is up to them. He said, but what it comes down to is, well, hey, if a woman wants to be with a high value man, it comes at a cost. One of those costs is that he may exercise his options to be with other women. Of course, the way Kevin defined it, he said exercising your options isn't cheating because you're not going behind the person's back to do so. You're letting them know that, hey, we're going to have a certain understanding. Um, I might exercise my options to be with other women, but I'm going to let you know. And there will be certain constraints on that, like she can't come to the house, or I'm not going to give her more resources than I give to you. I'm not going to have children by this person, stuff like that. This is, some stuff that Kevin used to talk about. Again, I'm not saying I agree, and I haven't defended cheating here. I'm saying that there are a lot of women who don't care, who don't put a high premium on loyalty as much as they do on resources and clout. And just because you and maybe people you affiliate with don't do that doesn't doesn't detract from the fact that a lot of women will and do that. So it's a set for life money wise, but destroy their soul. I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing. And Miss Neal said, just because you have options doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. Again, not I, I'm not justifying it. I'm paraphrasing what Kevin used to tell people, used to tell women, because he was trying to set their expectations realistically. Because all of these women come to his show talking about they want high value men, but he was trying to gauge the fact of whether they realized that them getting a high value man will come at certain costs, because high value men are exceedingly rare in any society. And he was like, you have to be prepared for the fact that you may have to share this man with other women, because he will have the right, because at this he being at the point of what he is in his life and his value to society makes him exceedingly rare, and that means other women are going to want him too. So I'm not justifying it. Explanation is not just explanation is not a justification. That's not the same. These are not things. I think people need this. This is why philosophy is so important, because we have to distinguish between a rational justification for something and a matter of fact explanation and a social justification. Those are three different things. Rationally justifying a claim, explaining why something happens, and seeing why it may be socially justified. Those are three different things. Okay. She says it has consequences anyways, no matter how open they communicate it, it will affect the soul. I mean, that's for them to decide. The funny thing is, Kevin was actually a very religious man. He and I'm not religious, but he was. He believed, because he used to teach a he wasn't a minister, but he was active in his church. I forgot his what. Amon says I gotta go. No problem, man. Enjoy your swim. Got to do that physical therapy. So I dropped something heavy on my ankle the other day, and luckily it's not as bad as I thought it was. I can still run on it. But yeah, take care of yourself, man. One says you wanted to hit a touchy subject, justify it. Well, a friend told me I should. I still need more likes. Um, when I get more people in the chat, I need more likes. Miss Needle says sharing your partner never goes well though. I know, but she won't let me share you, Miss Needle. I'm joking. I'm joking. Don't start. Don't start. Don't start. I'm joking. Agnes says, I would like an honest man. That's why I always tell my fiance be honest with me. Right. So the thing is with the guy who's willing to exercise options is that one, because he's at such a high value to members of his community and society at large, that a lot of people are going to desire him. And when I'm talking about high value man, I'm not talking about celebrity. Most celebrities are not high value. So let's get that out of the way. So when we're talking about high value men, we're not talking about celebrities and entertainers and athletes. We're talking about the people behind the scenes, the people who have the LinkedIn profiles that show account manager, executive director, these sorts of things, right? The people at the top of their game or climbing to the top of their game who make 120 and more per year, who are recognized by other high value men as being high value, who are looked upon as beacons within their community, and so on and so forth. And they meet a certain moral standard too. That's part of being a high value man, right? These folks, being exceedingly rare, have options. Whether they exercise those options or not is a different story. But if a woman is honest, she has to say, "Hey, I know you have these options," and there'll be a conversation about it. There'll be a conversation between her and her man or wife or husband, and say, "Hey, look, I get it. I know that other women are going to want you, But if you do such and such, one, I don't, they might say, hey, I don't want to know about it. Meaning, don't don't do anything that's going to cause drama. Don't do anything that's going to involve, that's going to end up with you having kids by the person. Um, I don't want this person in the house. Stuff like this. Like they're going to have a conversation, and they can decide on whether or not that is a path fitting to them. Bill and Melissa Gates. She under Bill and Melissa Gates, before they were divorced, she knew that man had other women. She was fine with that. She objected to him hanging out with Epstein. That's where she drew the line. Because that made her look bad, because she held a certain social position in their community, and he tarnished that with his affiliation with Epstein. But she was completely fine with him having affairs with other women. Where she drew the line was his acquaintance with Epstein. Okay, so she is typical of many women married to high value men, someone like a Bill Gates, where he's going to exercise his options, and she doesn't care as long as there's no drama. So that's one of my, but it's not like he's being dishonest about it. When you're being dishonest, that's when you're cheating, according to Kevin Samuels. He was saying exercising your options isn't cheating. And here's the thing, guys. He got a lot of pushback, not just from the women. He got pushback by the men too on that. Even his own friend Dennis Sperling was like, "Dude, that's still cheating," because he's literally said that on a few days ago on one of his recent videos. He was like, "I disagree with Kevin on that." Um, but yeah, according to Kevin, it's cheating when you're being dishonest and you're going behind a person's back and doing it. He said, but if you're already having an honest conversation about that, he was saying that's just exercising your options. Again, I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm just explaining how he thought of that, and the fact that uh, uh, a lot of high value people do have that option within their relationships. Not all, but many of them do. And I'm not justifying it either. Again, explaining something is not justifying. I'm not justifying. I'm just saying that is the case with some folks. And she says it breaks trust. She said Kevin might have been religious, but not a born again Christian. You listen. You can't really challenge that man's faith based on your understanding of your faith. You simply can't. Like, the man was a religious person, and he didn't come to a religious epiphany later on in life. He's been religious throughout his whole life. He didn't come to epiphany once he started having problems. He was a cancer survivor. He beat cancer. Unfortunately, he still died when he was 52. Some claim 56, but I'm gonna go with 52. That's what he said his age was. Um, he His understanding of his faith is not your understanding of your faith. You can't claim that the man wasn't a born again Christian just because his faith isn't the same as yours. The way you guys look at your faith are different things. I mean, he literally taught in the church. Are you doing that, or are you just having these little religious conniptions with people? That's different. And he led by example. Through his own, he started a Facebook, a private Facebook group where he got couples together, and resulted in several marriages through his private Facebook group. Dennis Sperling again was one of the people who met his wife through Kevin's private dating group and got married. So there's proof in the pudding. Said he wouldn't defend such principles if he was. Again, your understanding of your faith is not his understanding of his faith. It's just like it wouldn't be right for me to challenge you on the tenets of your faith. You really can't challenge him on the tenets of his faith because you guys don't have the same understandings in how you avow your faith. So Agnes says if he's going to cheat, think about it many times because it never ends well. I mean, again, women don't like this because they don't want to share their resources. But for a guy who's high value, he's already at a point where he can do what he wants pretty much because he's such a rarity. And that's why there has to be an honest conversation with them about what the guy cannot do and what the woman can and cannot do. Sometimes the woman in the relationship exercises her options too. Kevin talked about this in his videos. He talked about just like how the man may exercise his options, the woman sometimes exercise her options with the pool boy. That's why there's a long running joke about, you know, these men who are like the pool boys and the gardeners in these mansions, that they were there to satisfy the wife, just like the husband might exercise his options by satisfying himself with the secretary or the maid. Like the, the these are well-known things that happen amongst the elite. Like people don't realize the elite lives people in the elite. And I'm not talking about the 1%ers. I'm talking about this. I'm talking about the 0.1%. These people live in completely different lifestyle than the 99.9% rest of us. This is exactly this interesting how men view things not as cheating as women do emotional versus physical. Exactly, because we're not the same. This is where this is another faux pas about modern Western society, is that they've been people have taught that men and women are the same. We are not the same. We don't think the same, and we don't behave the same. We simply don't. Listening says men might hit on other women while being married and see no issue with it, while the women see it very differently. She sure wasn't fine with that. What's portrayed on the outside is not always all there. Is does affect you deep inside, except if you're a psychopath or got no conscience. Agatha, you just gonna let this idiot Sturdy say twerk? Sturdy, go back to your mental hospital where you need to be. You shall not be on this channel anymore, faggot. Anyway, Miss Nito, you're missing the point, and you've been willfully ignorant throughout the entire thing. You want to harp on something that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about, and you at this point you're being willfully ignorant because that's everything you're talking about is not what I'm talking about. I'm making a simple fact of the matter claim that people cannot have it all, and men already understand that, but modern Western women don't. They still think they can have it all because they've been taught that they can't. And this is why we call it hitting the wall. They hit the wall when they come to the realization that they can't have it all, and they lash out because of it. They lash out when they hit the wall in their middle years and realize I can't get the same man I had in my 20s. That I that a lot of men aren't going to want to date a woman who has multiple kids by other men. That a man doesn't want to settle down with a woman who has a high body count unless she's a very exceptional person in other ways that make up for her her scandalous past. Um, that a woman who's kept us all kept herself out of the dating market for decades and now is back on the scene shouldn't expect that she's going to get the same results that she did back when she was first on the dating scene 20, 30 years ago, either because she got married or she decided to dedicate herself to her career, or she for whatever reason decided to become celibate for like a decade or 20 years or whatever. And now no. So that brings me to the sixth type. There's a sixth type. So the sixth type is someone who, decided to pursue a career and ignore getting into any sort of long-term relationships. And now that they're comfortable where they are in their career, now they want to find a man. It doesn't work that way. You gave away your best years to 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 a company. You gave away your most, you know, nubile years of your life to working for a company to grow them, to make them rich. And as a result, you were amply rewarded for it. But now you are lonely. It's like buy a dog and die alone because it's over with. As Kevin used to say, buy a dog and die alone. Like, you, again, going back specifically to the black community, a lot of black women are told to go to college so they don't need to have a man to take care of them. Okay, that's fine. But after you've chosen that path, then you can't go back and say, well, now I want a man. You didn't choose that path. So now you can't say, you can't have it all. You can't have both the career and the marriage when you purposefully decided to not pursue a long-term relationship or marriage for the sakes of having a career so you won't need a man. Well, now you don't need a man and now you can't get a man. Agus says, I think if men and women are open with each other, speak about what each person likes or dislikes. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Like I said, have an honest conversation with about it. Like I said, just because a guy can exercise his options doesn't mean that he will. And again, I don't even necessarily agree with the whole exercise your options thing. I'm just saying that is a thing that is a choice for some. Agatha, it's about boundaries. Mrs. Hassan responds to him about the women you brought up. Well, oh, okay, yeah, I get. Sorry, um, I stand corrected. So you're referring back to what I was saying about women who would allow their men to cheat or whatever. Again, I'm saying I don't. Again, I never said I agreed with that when Kevin brought that up. I was saying that, however, he is right that within that elite, with within that world with certain folks, like that is something that is handled differently sometimes. Sometimes, again, women are comfortable with the man having an option, and sometimes the men are comfortable with the women having that options. Their marriage may be one of necessity, not of love, or it may have once been of about love, but now it's just of out of, but now it's just purely a pragmatic thing. I can't speak on everyone's thing individually. I can only speak in generalities because that's the only way we can like really do this, right? That says yes, I agree. Boundaries are important also. He says, "How do men know a woman has lots of body counts?" Oh, there's definitely signs. Like that's actually a great question, Agatha. Thank you. I've got a great question for once. So not for once, but you know what I mean. But yeah, some. So here's the most obvious way, right? They tell them. Like some women would just straight up tell them. Like yeah, like what's the chick who's now a Muslim after she's been after she hit the wall, the little Instagram thought. Not Melissa Ford. She's another thought though, but uh, um, I can't remember. But she was someone Kevin Samuels once interviewed on his channel. Yeah, like she openly talks about how many men she's been with. Most men find that disgusting. For one, his and I know some women say you need to get over it. You guys are just immature. They will shame men for not liking a high body count when it's very good reasons not to like a high body count. Like the one reason I always throw out there is really not the real reason. I just say that because it's funny and most men think that way. When I say guys don't want a woman who's had so many men that it'll be like throwing a hot dog through the hallway having sex with her. I'm saying it to be funny, but that's not the real option because the truth of the matter is she can be with a million people and it could still be tight. That's not the issue. So here's the thing with women with high body counts. And I also get into how we can tell they have high body counts. So one is that they just straight up tell you how many they had. But the reason why we don't like that is one, there's a higher instance of STIs with high body counts, right? Two, they are less able to successfully pair bond with a man when they've been with a lot of men sexually. There is a neurochemistry involved in sex. And women who have high body counts typically are unable to successfully pair bond long term with other men because of the neurochemistry of sex. I don't want to get into oxytocins and all that sort of stuff, but you get the idea, right? Third is usually with a high body count, there's often the association with psychological trauma that comes along with that, right? There's some psychological trauma that comes with a high body count. This is why pimps, and I talked about this in a previous video, this is why pimps have know when a woman has reached her like a certain number that she can't she's done with the streets. Like there's a certain number where a pimp knows that she's no longer good on the streets. Like she's not gonna be able to try try to keep this PG. This is I'm trying to be more trying to make this more family oriented chat. Okay. Um, but yes, there's a point where pimps will talk about they know that a woman can no longer be on the street because they're burnt out. There's psychological trauma that comes with a high body count. Also, there is an association with mental illness with people who would engage in such sexual prolip, profligacy. Okay, put it in the nice way. With sexual profligacy, there's an association sometimes with certain mental illnesses. So this is why even if the woman doesn't actually give you the number or a number thereabout, because they rarely give you the actual number, they'll give you a number thereabout. But even if so, but even if they don't give you a number, there are these other signs that they've been around the block a lot. Again, there's some there's some trauma, there's some association with some mental illnesses, there's the inability to be in a successful relationship with just one man because they can't pair bond successfully with other men because they've been with so many men. It's messed up their sexual neurochemistry. Okay, there are signs. Another way is because you may live in a small community where everyone knows each other, and word gets around. Oh, you were with Sharonda? Yo, so and so was with Sharonda last month. Yeah, man, Sharonda was good. You had her too, didn't you, Pookie? Yeah, Pookie. Yeah, man, she was good. I got her from Ray Ray. Ray Ray's like, yeah, man, I got her from Leroy. Leroy like, yeah, man, I got her from yeah, I had her after Sean. Like Sean, like, well, I had her again after that. Well, you had her again? Yeah, I had her again. Shit. If you live in a small community, that's also how you know someone's been that a chick has a high body count because everyone knows her. It's like going into the Cheers bar. Well, if you're not Gen X, you don't even get that reference to Cheers, but or if you're from overseas, you don't get the reference to Cheers unless you watch Cheers. It's so good. Good on you. Frasier is a spinoff from the TV show Cheers, to let you know. Anyway, when everybody knows your name, that's from Cheers. But yeah, when everyone knows her, high body count. That's the second way to know. Okay. Uh, Third way, she's more sexually experienced than you are. Like she's teaching you things. Like, hold up, how did you know how to do the the dirty snowman? I don't know. I just picked it up somewhere. Oh, a word? You just picked it up somewhere, huh? She's more sexually experienced than you. That's the third way we know. uh, and again, I didn't mention this as an option, but the fourth option is like she has a lot of trauma around, being in a relationship and all that sort of stuff. So there are signs. She doesn't have to tell you she's had a high body count to know that to gather the evidence in other ways that she's had a high body count. Okay. The fifth one is that she's completely defiant in answering the question at all. She's like, what should that matter? That doesn't even matter. My body count doesn't matter. It's what I'm doing with you right now that matters. Okay, you're right. It shouldn't matter. Then why not just tell me the number? Because 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 that's it's none of your business. Okay, if it doesn't matter and you're with me, what does then the number doesn't matter. You can just tell me the number. They don't tell you the number because despite saying that it doesn't matter, it actually does matter, or they would just tell you the number. If you ask me how many times can I throw a kick in 1 minute, I'm going to answer you to the best of my ability. It may or may not matter, but if I have nothing to hide, I'll just tell you. Like, yeah, I can kick 20 times in 1 minute. Like, okay. So I'm just making that number up, by the way. That's not the actual number, but that's that's another way we know. It's like, oh, I can kick 20 times a minute. Oh, that's cool. Well, you might be like, that ain't shit. All right, well, okay. So same thing. So that's the fifth way. The woman refuses to tell you how many people she's been with, and then she'll use shaming tactics, saying that you must be a weak man if you care about those sort of things, or it shouldn't matter to you because you're with me anyway. Well, okay, those may all be true, but if that's the case, then why not just tell me the number? If I'm weak, then why do you care what I think? And if it doesn't matter, then why don't you just tell me? The fact of the matter is, it does actually matter to them, or they would just tell you the number. So that's a clear sign that is a high count, at least to them. So, and some guys are, and some, especially you younger dudes, if you're watching this, maybe you're watching this on the repeat of this broadcast, but some of you will be surprised how high of a body count women have. I remember just maybe say like 22 years ago, I was talking with my cousin from Baltimore, and he was telling me. it's not unreasonable to assume that a lot of women in Baltimore may have a body count of like a couple of hundred. I'm like, what? A couple of hundred? By the way, my body count is not that high, in case you're wondering. But yeah, he was like, yeah, some of these Baltimore chicks, they might have a body count of a few hundred. He said that's normal. I was like, dude, that's not normal. I said it may be. I said it. It may be something that happens, but that doesn't make it normal. He didn't think anything of it. I hope now, 22 years later, he doesn't think the same. But back then, he didn't care. He was just all about having his fun, and he didn't think it was anything abnormal that just regular women, not women who are in the industry, in the who are in the sexual industry, not women who are OF, because there was no OF back then. These aren't working women, just regular women. He was like, yeah, some of them might have a hundred or two men they've been with. I'm like, what? Guys today, some of y'all are not prepared to hear that. Seriously. So here's the other. So here's the other twist on that knob. If you don't want to know, don't ask. Don't ask. Like we used to have in the military back in the 90s because of Clinton. Don't ask, don't tell. Miss Neil says, yeah, it breaks trust if you do things that your partner doesn't agree with. Miss Neil says, Agatha like being on dating apps or sending them out around nudes while being about to marry someone. I don't know why they hit that. I'm gonna show that. That's a salient point. What's up, Asia? Access promiscuity. Yeah, I was just trying to use a different word. I'm just trying so hard not to get demonetized. I guess it's so true. How people talk in our community. Chica, yeah, it's been a while. It says been a while. Glad to catch a live ball as well. Yes, more or less everything's doing pretty swell. Um, Still a little bummed about the situation in Southeast Asia last weekend, and it happened right on Ramadan, which sucks. But anyway, I don't want to be morbid. Agnes says, I heard men say that they can tell just by sleeping with a woman. Is that true? No, remember I was saying I was joking about that. Like guys always make that joke, like, you can tell, it's like throwing a hot dog through a hallway. That's not necessarily true because, there are a lot of uh, working girls out there who've been with hundreds to thousands of men, and they still have it intact, if you know what I mean. So you can't really tell that. That's one of the ways you cannot tell. That can be very misleading. It could be someone's first time, and they can be open, maybe because they're pretty loose down there, or because they feel so comfortable with that man. On the other hand, again, someone could have been with like hundreds of men, but they keep it pretty tight, either through go exercises or they are just naturally very tight down there. So that's definitely not. Some men do think that, but that's really not a way you can tell someone's had a high body count. That's the way you know. So all the different ways I said that you can tell, most of them basically are psychological. If I were to sum them all up, it's mostly you can tell psychologically, not physically. I mean, they walk around like a horse, maybe. But again, you could be with someone thinking she's Miss Virtue, and again, she's had more men than Delta Force put away during the Iraqi war, during Operation Freedom, and you would never know. at least not just from down there alone. You would know through those other signs I mentioned. One, did they actually tell you? Two, did they actually deny? They actually won't. Did they refuse to tell you anything? Three, they have some psychological, some emotional trauma. Um, for excuse me, you know, four, they just refuse to commit to anyone, stuff like that. So got a lot of likes. Need some more likes, folks, if you don't mind. And again, I want to say, even though disagree with Miss Needle on a lot of points, she brings up some good points. I don't want people to think she doesn't have good points. She has good points. They're not always relevant to what I'm saying, but she makes good points on some things. What I would like is for her to understand we have more things of which we agree than things that we disagree about, if that makes sense. Sometimes when you are already looking at a person in a certain way, uh, you will find everything on which you disagree and neglect all the things on which you do agree. And we happen to agree on a lot of things. It just may not be on the same things at the same time. So, I, that's my mea culpa to her. But yeah, again, you're not going to tell if once someone has a high body count just by how it feels down there. That's very misleading. But again, the point of this was to talk about why it is delusional to think you can have everything, and why it is a certain uh, Western society is very toxic in teaching men they must be accountable for the choices they make in life, but teach women that, but tell women that they don't have to be. They don't have to be accountable for the choices they make in life, but men do. We're used to being held account for things, whether they're trivial or major, but they're not held to any account for the things that they do. Like, it's okay that they have children by multiple men and never been married and still expect they can find a suitable mate. they, you know, they think they can live a life of promiscuity and think there's no cost to that. Or they think they can prioritize a career over a relationship and then be surprised when they end up without being in a relationship. Or they think, you know, well, okay, I made those mistakes when I was younger, and now I'm in my middle age years. Um, those those mistakes I made in the past, they don't mean anything anymore. Yes, they do. They still mean something because, oh, you're back, Moonlit. What's up? They I'm sorry, if men still have to be held accountable for the mistakes they made in the past, even though it's far in the past, and so do women. Like, there are always trade-offs, and we all have to take account for the things we've done, right or wrong. You get praised for the things you do. You get blamed for the things you do. So, Melissa says, I don't believe that, but I can't speak for all men and women. Sex is on the not the basis of a relationship. Just my opinion. Yeah, Mona, we I think we touched on that right before you came back on. Um, I told her, yeah, guys definitely can't tell by that because that's very misleading. I said there's some women who are naturally just more loose down there than others, and it may be their very first time, but a guy may be so disappointed that it's loose that they like, you I thought this was your first time. This ain't your first time. Also, let's put in the fact that he might not be packing either. So when you're packing, everything is tight. I'm just saying. Chat, tell me if that's true or not. Like I'm obviously not guys. I mean, well, you know what I mean. Guys, you can add to that as well, but you know what I'm saying. But if a guy is packing that pepper farm, you know, everything's tight when you got the when you got the kielbasa. You know what I'm saying? Like some dude that was like this. No, sorry, like this. Like man, that shit that shit was whack, man. It was all loose. Then no, Big Dick Henry from Oklahoma. It's like, boy, I don't know what you talking about. That joint was, man, that thing was, tighter than a mouse hole. What you talking about? He's like, we must not have the same girl, or we had the same girl. I don't, he ain't packing. He ain't packing. That's all I'm saying. So again, you can't tell someone's body count by the intimacy because it's that deals on a bunch of personal factors. It deals with her genitalia. So to put it nicely, depending on her genitalia and the guy's genitalia, that influences the uh, the enjoyment of the intimacy. That has nothing to do with the body count. Like I said, a woman can been with 1,000 men. You would never know because she's she she'll grip you like she'll grip you like a Lego. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, those Legos you can't pull apart for the world. Oh, y'all heard Agatha? I'm not gonna. Well, no, I don't care. She said I like a big package. Yeah, Bullet. I didn't know she was. I never heard Agatha talk like that. She was she was our innocent one, man. We, you know Miss Needle ain't gonna talk about that if she's even still here. I know Miss. I don't even know Miss Needle's background. I know she don't want anyone to know her background, and we're not gonna ask. Don't ask. Don't tell. Um, but she is an adult, so I'm sure she's had adult uh, relationships. So that's all we're gonna say. That's all we'll say as far as Miss Needle. But yeah, like I said, that's not the way. I know, Moonlit. I'm surprised Agatha said that too. She was the most innocent of well, she no Agatha was more innocent than Miss Needle at times. So I'm really surprised she said that. I mean, not that Miss Needle's ever said anything, but you know what I'm saying. Like Agatha was like the sweetie in the group. That's crazy. So we're gonna assume that her fiance is her fiance for a reason. That's what we're gonna say. We're gonna assume. She said I'm growing up. Oh yeah, that's what she said. Cause I'm out. I gotta go swim. Oh, I thought yeah. I thought that's what I was wondering. I thought she had already left for that. Um, but what was I? Where was I at? Um, yeah. Oh, Moment. In case you are still here, like I said, did you hear the options I was telling Agatha? I was like, the way people tell body count usually just because the person will actually tell you, or they refuse to tell you, and then they would try to shame you about asking, or three, they would have like some sort of trauma about about their relationships in the past, or four, they would just not be able to really bond with you very well. And I forgot the fifth option, but those pretty much sum them up. But yeah, guys, I again, this is not women bashing because you guys know that I take aim at the guys too. Oh, you were cooking. Okay, cool. But Mona, you know this. Like, I'm not women bashing like Kat was accusing me of in my video earlier. I bash men too. Like I said, I make fun of men who are unrealistic too. Like I said, these elder how many times have I said these elderly men that come out to the largest international sex tourist city in the world, Pattaya, thinking they're gonna find true love amongst a bunch of sex workers. Do I not make fun of them for how unrealistic they are? Or the fact that you got a bunch of elderly men um, who expect to find a 20 something, maybe 30 something year old woman who loves him for him and not for his resources. Like, I was like, no woman is going to, no normal woman, unless she's in desperate need, is going to be attracted to some elderly man with a foot in the grave popping statins for his heart disease because she loves him for him. She's gonna love him for his resources. So the guy complaining that the woman he found is a gold digger, that's his fault. Like, you are not, men have a point where they hit the wall too. Like, you're not gonna be like a 60, 70-year-old man. It's it's the same time there as it is here. Agatha, is 11:55 p.m. there. I mean, sorry, a.m. It's about, basically it's about afternoon there. We got 12 on the East Coast. We have a 12-hour time difference with um well, no, he might be an hour behind us. Yeah, he's an hour behind us. Sorry. He's 1 hour behind us. So it's 11-hour difference. Um Philippines 12-hour difference, Indonesia 12-hour difference. But yeah, it's around Southeast Asia is usually just an 11 or 12-hour difference, depending on what time zone they fall in. India is the hardest because India has their own. The country of India has its own unique time zone, which is the same time everywhere in the country, even though they fall within different time zones. They all have the same. So it's, don't date anyone in India. That's, or because it's going to be hard to keep up with that. Um, and it's going to be hard to do business with people in India too because of different time zones. Because you got to. But anyway, he said we don't do daylight savings here. Yeah, we almost got rid of that here 3 years ago, and then Congress couldn't agree to do it because they were beefing over the insurrection. The, they, what they call it, insurrection, not an insurrection. You don't throw an insurrection with just a few hundred people rioting, but whatever. um, but yeah, like I said, this is not women bashing. This is, the only bashing I'm doing is on delusional people, and they're delusional men and they're delusional women. Like I said, delusional men, elderly men thinking they are still going to be found physically attractive to a 20, 30-year-old woman, but they look like, but they look like, who's someone I can name? Um, they look, but they look physically like John Candy. Well, that might be too old school for people to remember who John Candy is. Who's a? They look like, all right. They look like Peter Griffin. Okay, like they look like Peter Griffin, but 40 years older than Peter Griffin, and think, oh, well, I'm gonna, you know, and Mona will tell you, you can see people walking around Bangkok and Pattaya. These guys got guts that hang over that hang over their waist. You know, and they haven't seen their own penis in like 30 years. Only time their penis is when they lying down, they lift their belly up because that's the way they have to do it to. Never mind. But yeah, yeah. Why are they always wearing speedos? dude, you know they're from Europe. They either from Europe or Australia. Guarantee those fat old white dudes in Pattaya and over in the Philippines in Angeles City, because Angeles City is the second. Angeles City in the Philippines is the second largest international sex tourist place in the world. Pattaya is number one. Angeles City is number two. Same thing over there. There's always these big old white guys wearing speedos. I don't know why they're wearing speedos, but bro, I'm pretty sure it's because they're European. The the ones who are American, they're probably wearing cargo shorts. The American ones, they're probably wearing cargo shorts, but the Europeans or Australians, they're wearing like speedos. I'm like, what the fuck are you wearing a speedo for? Like, you look like you look like Santa Claus about to risk it all. They look like Santa Claus about to risk it all. That's what they look like in them speedos. Like I said, at least the American sex pats have the decency of wearing like some cargo shorts or something. Belly be all out and shit, like no shirt on, like belly just out. So yeah, I will make fun of men too when they're delusional. These old ass, these little old ass great grandpas going out there looking like Papa Smurf, thinking they about to find a little young tenderoni Smurfette. Moon says no. He said I rock gym basketball shorts. Yeah, but you're not one of them. With the black guys, they be trying to think they still YNs. You know what I'm talking about, the YNs. Actually, you know what I'm talking about, the YNs, right? Um, you got these little 60, 70-year-old black men with their with the skinny jeans on, and ain't nothing skinny about them, but they, but ain't nothing skinny about them but their tiny ass legs with the big ass gut, back bigger than Devastator. So yeah, I can bash on the men too. So so everyone's saying, oh, he makes fun of the women. No, I'm equal opportunity. These dudes, this um these dudes out here older than what's the oldest guy in the Bible? Mythal. What are their names? You know I'm talking about, the oldest man in the Bible, and allegedly still alive, walking around, right? Myth starts with an M. Myth. Someone in the chat will get that. But yeah, these guys like these guys are like they pushing 2,000 years old, walking around either in skinny jeans if they black, cargo pants if they white, speedos if they European. Talking about they looking for a little fine young thing, but expecting not to pay for it. Come on, bro. Or nah, not bro, unk. Come on, unk. Come on. Like you you are you are older than civil rights. You are older than the civil rights. And you want someone in the 20s and 30s. So old, so old Martin Luther King was still playing hopscotch. Now 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 you overseas in Pattaya, or you down in Miami balling, talking about you want to find a woman who loves you for you. Yeah, okay. So yeah, I can bash on men, but I'm gonna bash on the women too. It's just equal. He said they be looking like North Koreans and singing some real sus songs. Oh, don't get me started with the Chinese and Korean tourists. Don't, ugh. Man, they be on some shit too. Shoot, part of Angeles City is part of Angeles City has been acquired by Koreans now because it's some of them outnumber some of them now outnumber the Western tourists in Angeles City. I don't know about in Pattaya, but in Angeles City, there is a half of it has become Koreanized. So, like, there was a notorious nightclub out in Angeles City. People watching this broadcast on replay who've been to the Philippines or are in the Philippines know what I'm talking about. There was this nightclub called High Society in Angeles City, and it was like one of the most notorious places for all the bar girls and their freelancers and the barangay girls. Um, but that got closed, and now it's a Korean bar. Korean men love their their uh their romantic adventures as well. But yeah, it's just unrealistic. And I'm bashing on modern Western women specifically because for them they're not taught that there are trade-offs and that they believe that their options are forever. And in no other category are people taught that they have limitless options other than modern Western women. Men in the West know that they don't have limitless options. They're told that they have very limited options. So we know that, and we act accordingly. At least most of us do. The exception to the rule are high value men, right? Um, but and even women in over east in the traditional cultures, they know they have pretty privilege too, and know they have options. But they also, but unlike Western women, they know that those options aren't limitless. Again, Western modern women are the only ones who think their options are limitless, and it's just patently delusional to think so. Moon says cleaner than Bataya. I don't know if Angela City is cleaner than Bataya. I wouldn't say so. Um, well, I think Pattaya is larger, but it's not necessarily cleaner than Angela City. some of the some areas of like urban urban areas in the Philippines can be quite dusty, unfortunately. Places within Metro Manila, places in Pampanga, places in Subic Bay, places in Cebu. I would say the clean one of the cleanest and safest regions in the Philippines is Davao City, or it's one of the cleanest and safest. But I don't. I'm not sure if Pattaya is is. I don't. I'm not sure if Pattaya is worse than Angela City. At least as far as cleanliness, I can't say. I've been to Pattaya. I haven't been to Angela City. I've been in Pampanga, which is the province in which Angela City is, but I've never been to Angela City because it's a red light district and there's nothing else there. At least Pattaya has other things you can do besides smash. Like you go to Pattaya during the daytime, that's usually the you can do the boat trips to the different islands. Or you might go to one of the Muay Thai training camps. You have the Venom training camp there. You have I think the one of the Fairtex training camps there. And I think you have one of the Tiger training camps. I know there's a Tiger training camp in Phuket, but you have several training camps in Pattaya. You have the the boat trip during the daytime, and you have one of the Buddhist temples. There's nothing in Angeles City other than all the sex tourism. That's really all that Angeles City has. because it was built around an Air Force base. They used to be Clark Air Force Base in Papanga before they closed it back in the 80s. So usually red light districts grow up around like American bases. So they used to be Clark Air Force Base in Papanga, where Angela City grew up around. Just like in Subic Bay, um, that red light district grew up around the naval base that used to be in Subic Bay. Um, so around Olongapo City, um, there's a thriving uh, retinue of working girls. You said, I don't think you explored Thailand, but Thai is disgusting. Oh, no, no, I don't doubt you. Um, when I walked the down, I did go down Walking Street in Pattaya, but that was during the daytime because we were going there to hit the boat trip and we had just missed the boat. So we just walked around Pattaya. We went to the beach. Um, then I went to the training camp and did my training seminar there because there weren't any fights going on that day. So my wife was like, "Well, instead of you going to watch a fight, why don't you go train?" I was like, "Hell yeah, this is why she's my wife." She was like, "Since we can't go watch a fight, why don't you go train and do some Muay Thai?" I was like, "Yeah." So by the time it was nighttime, we left because we had to get back to uh, Bangkok because we were leaving that next morning. So we, you know, after we, I mean, well, after I trained, we got uh, a Uber and took that that was before it was Grab. We took a Uber back to Bangkok, rested. Then I got a massage in the morning because I was sore from the Muay Thai seminar, and then we took our flight back. Wait, yeah, we took our flight back. So I'm thinking I had did my I was thinking of another country, but yeah, but yeah, it's like I said, this is why the red pill exists. This is why the manosphere came to, was created because women here were taught they can have it all, and they would shame men for for telling them they had to be more realistic. Like Kevin Samuels called the sign language, the shame, insults, guilt, and the need to be right. And he remains undefeated. 3 years into his death, everything he said is still true. And a lot of things he prophesied too came to light. The winter is here, like he said. Winter is here. We're now seeing record numbers of women becoming homeless. We see the government now taking away their their social welfare benefits with the current presidential administration. Kevin Samuels said that he's like society wasn't designed in wasn't designed uh, to support single people. It was designed for couples. The family is the basic unit of society, and that's how government has been structured to support that. Government wasn't structured to support able-bodied single people. Um, he talked about women hitting the wall. You see a lot of women lashing out, hitting the wall, and blaming everyone but themselves for it. They want to call men women bashers because they're being told you don't have the same options now at 55 that you had at 25. You don't. You can't have multiple kids by different men and think guy's going to want to take care of you and that he can be a cleanup man. That's that's not realistic. Like I said, in the black community, it was particularly insidious because only within the black community they were telling black men they had to become stepdads if they were still single men in their 30s and 40s. If a man was single in his 30s and 40s because he did what he was supposed to do, he got his education, got his career, now he's making decent money, has his own home, they're telling him, well, at your age, you don't have any choice but to date a woman who has kids. So again, these are the delusions of the modern Western woman. Again, I get what Mona was saying earlier. Said, but men do these things too, right? Absolutely, they do. The difference is men are held accountable for their behavior. Western women aren't. They're told that's okay. You're strong. You're an independent woman. That just means you made poor choices. But for them, oh well, your choices shouldn't define your present. Yes, they do. they do. They manifestly do. It's not who I am on the inside, but what I do that defines me. So yeah, rightly or wrongly, your choices have consequences. So guys, I'm not like I said, I'm not trying to be a woman basher. I'm bashing delusional people. I will always bash delusional people regardless of sex, gender, religion, orientation, race. I don't like irrational people. That's what I don't like, people who are irrational or delusional. So let's see where we got need some more likes. Well, I'm getting tired. I'm trying to keep this going, guys, but I want to keep beating a dead horse. Um, if people do have questions who are watching this broadcast on replay, you can leave it in the comments. Just make sure you're civil. Keep it civil. Okay, keep it civil. Attack the argument and not the person. And I'm not just talking about me. I mean, like, even if you disagree with one of the people in my chat room, be civil and attack the argument, not the person. Okay. But yeah. So I don't know what more else to say about that. I mean, actually, there's a lot more I can say about it, but it would seem I don't want it to seem circular. But delusional people don't think there's consequences for their behavior, and that can be men or women. Most of the time, though, men realize there are consequences for their behavior. When they don't, we usually rightly call them out on it. And if they have the patent and ability to realize there are consequences for their behavior, we normally classify them in within some category of mental illness. However, modern women don't get that same treatment. They are told they can have it all, and when they crash out because they realize they can't, they get an outpouring of support and empathy for being delusional, which isn't helpful. Um, so this isn't that. This is tough love. But next time I do crash out, I'm going to have some candles and I'm going to wear a suit. Okay, we're going to make it very uh, Kevin-esque in here. Okay, we're going to have lights lowered dim bit. Have some scented candles. I'll wear a suit. I look nice in this suit. Trust your boy is in shape. Ask ask Agatha. I'm joking. Your sister. Oh, shout out to your sister Agatha. Tell her what's up. Um, Sure, she's pretty like her sister. Um, that's right, because you're both in Taiwan. I forgot about that. You 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 get overseas quite a bit. That passport gets some work. Ask her, did they feel any of the shocks from the earthquake last weekend? Because the earthquake, even though it hit in Myanmar, specifically in Mandalay, Myanmar or Burma, um, was felt in India, Bangladesh, Thailand, Laos, China, and I think Vietnam. Like, and then there was a second earthquake 30 minutes afterwards in Indonesia, and that was felt in the Philippines. Well, in the southern part of the Philippines, not where my wife and I live. Getting, she's getting ready to do her thing. I don't know what that. I don't know what that means. I guess that means go to work. She said yes, but wasn't sure what was happening. Yeah. So yeah, usually when it's like a slight tremor, you rarely know what's going on. I've experienced 3 earthquakes in my life and I haven't felt either one of them. There was one when I was living in Chicago, didn't feel that. At first they said it was like a airplane that broke the speed barrier, but then later I think they said it was a tremor. Then there was one in Maryland, and no, so I've been through 4 earthquakes. Sorry. Then there was one uh, when I was on in Maryland on the what on the what they call it, the in the Delmarva region. Then there was another one that struck, and it was felt between like Philly and Baltimore. I didn't feel that. Then there was one when I was in the Philippines. They're always minor tremors, so I never feel it, but everyone else feels it, which is weird because everyone else is like freaking out around me. Like everyone's eyes be like all big, and I'm like, "What?" They was like, "You didn't feel that?" I'm like, "No." But yeah, I've experienced. Well, I've been in 4 earthquakes, but I didn't know what was going on. Like I saw like the bed shift or whatever, but I didn't feel it. I don't know why. So yeah, I've experienced 4 earthquakes, but I didn't like feel the tremors. Uh, I was say she says yes, but graduation right? Okay, congratulations. That's good stuff. So was she like her sister and her expectations? You know what I'm talking about. I only know what I'm talking about if he's still here. But yeah, like I said, so yeah, guys have many ways to kind of suss out whether someone has like a high body count, but it really can't be through the feeling. Some guys think that and it is wrong because, like I said, you could be it could be someone who's never has done that before and is like loosey goosey just because that's their own anatomy. I'm putting it in a nice way, right? They're trying to. Whereas other people may have been with an infant, an infinite amount of men. Well, not an infinite amount of men, but they may not even remember the number because there's so many, and still, it's still like a vice grip. So you can't really tell. Then again, it depends on the guy's anatomy too, because if he's you know, if he's if he's packing like the dude from The Hangover, he probably won't be getting too much satisfaction out of it. But if he, if he's built like Super Mario, just got a mushroom and went Super Mario, about to lay the pipe, you know, everything is tight to him. Like I said, I've never had any complaints, but like I said, some, you know, for some guys, they don't, if they're packing, like everything is tight to them. So that's not a way to tell. But but suffice all of that goofiness just to say that body counts do matter. It, you know, we want someone who's feminine, beautiful, and inspirational with a low body count, and know and can submit to their man. Right? That's it. Uh, and ladies, they want someone. Well, well, Miss Nita already said one. She wants a guy who can be loyal to her, right? Um, I guess. I mean, I don't even know she. Well, anyway, we're not gonna um, talk about that. But loyal, has resources. Um, for some, they might want someone who follows their faith. That's not really a. That's more of a personal thing, though. Not all women, but generally someone who has resources, who is attractive. Like some men think being attractive as a male doesn't matter. Yes, it does. Kevin would tell you that. Kevin was an image consultant. Kevin would teach men how to make their image more presentable for women, or not just for women, but also in the workplace. Attractiveness has its advantages. You say when you say submit, do you mean totally? In a way, yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, a lot of people get this twisted about submission. Submission isn't it. In a way, you can call it obedience, but it's just like I think you wrote one in the video before when I didn't define it, but I kind of described how it could work, right? Um, but yeah, some guys will say, "Well, that's not important to me," but a lot of those guys who say they haven't been in long term relationships, or if they have, they haven't been successful relationships. It does matter long term. You find the longest lasting marriages are usually with people who have traditional values, and this comes directly from my psychology. Like, this is not me, pontificating on red pill ideology or anything like that. Like I said, some of the things I say aren't just a matter of red pill ideology. They actually come from the science of relationships themselves. Like when I talk about age gap relationships are actually healthier. Men typically, value the woman for their youth and beauty, and the women value the men for their maturity and their resources. So that's why age gap relationships are generally healthier in any given society. Um, when it comes to marriages, people always talk about, well, most marriages end in divorce. Not really, because once you tease apart different factors, you find out that the longer lasting marriages are usually when both the man and the woman uphold traditional values. And one of those traditional values is the woman submits to the man provides, and whereas the traditional man provides and protects for his woman. So forget all that other stuff you hear all these relationship coaches telling you guys. At the end of the day, there are two type of men. Now, this is not me wearing my psychology context. This is me being red pill. So I want to be clear with that. So the guy saying no one will submit to me. I'm like literally married for the past 8 years. Anyway, so um, but yes, so tradition marriages where the couple both hold traditional values tend to be the long lasting relationships. The ones where people have more modern values are usually the marriages that end in divorce. So, um, again, this comes from the psychology of relationships where usually when people decide they want to live together first before they get married, that is a red flag. That doesn't necessarily they're gonna end up in divorce, but that's sort of a red flag that they hold more modernized ideas of relationships is cohabitating before marriage. Um, and my wife and I, we almost immediately got married after we started dating. So again, we were both very traditional in that sense. Um, but again, now I'm going to go into my speculation mode, if you don't mind. So I would say there's like, there's two types of guys at the end of the day. So it's 2 a.m. Someone breaks in the house. You got one guy, right? He he jumps up. His wife is freaking out, like, "Oh my God, baby, someone's in the house. What are we gonna do?" And he says, "Call the police." And she's like, "Aren't you gonna go check it out?" And he's like sitting there shaking and shivering like a little punk. And he gets up and goes to look for like a bat or something to go see who's the intruder downstairs. That's that one guy. Then there's the other guy. They hear someone break into the house, and the wife is panicking like, "Oh my God, baby, I think someone is in the house." This guy, he leans over to the nightstand, picks up his P365 Sig Sauer Legion with the hollow points, with one already in the chamber, steps out of the bed, and he tells her, "Stay here till I get back." She's like, "Should I call the police?" "No, call the police when I get back." And she's like, "Oh baby, please be safe." He's like, "Nah, he's wrong house, mother." Dick hard as a missile as he leaves the bedroom. Those are the two different guys. Choose wisely. I guess that's why, even though I'm engaged, still not living with him until marriage. Smart. I thought you were living with him, so that's good. That's very good. Because my thing is, why cohabitate? If you're gonna cohabitate, just marry, just get married. I see you see this a lot in the Philippines too. There's a lot of cohabitation in the Philippines. Although with them sometimes it's an economic factor involved. Some of them won't they will live together and even have kids together. So by all accounts they're like practically married except for legally because they can't afford it because a lot of them they want a traditional marriage with a large they want like a large church wedding and reception and all that sort of stuff. So they'll wait 10 or so years till they've gotten themselves together financially before they get married. Now, so in that case, because this is a different culture, I can't say that it is as bad as it is here in America. Here in America, it's not usually a financial thing because if it was a financial thing, they probably wouldn't even be living together anyway. And in America, it's usually because marriage is an afterthought. Like they, but it's like it doesn't make sense to do everything that involves marriage, but the actual marriage over there, I can understand why because there's a huge financial barrier because of cultural expectations on like having a big wedding and all that sort of stuff. However, I still think it would be better just to have a little, you know, wedding in the at City Hall than to like live together 10, 12 years before you get married and you already got Because one thing I wouldn't want is kids outside of the confines of marriage. And again, I'm not even religious, but some values, whether religious or not, make sense because they work. So I know my parents would not agree with living together. Understood. Understood. But in any case, I think I'm about to go. I think I've made my point. I went back and forth with Miss Needle, who, guys, she is a friend of mine, but she has very strong opinions, and I'm the type of friend that I'm gonna hold someone to account when they're tripping, just like as someone being a friend of mine, I hope they will hold me to account when they find me tripping too. But she was definitely tripping, and being a true friend, I'm gonna be real with you. Just like if I'm tripping, I hope my friends will hold me to account too. Like, yo, you're bugging. So you know, all right, guys. Good night, everyone. It's past midnight here. Um, but if anyone has any questions watching this broadcast on replay, leave it in the comment section. If you disagree with me, go ahead and tell me why. Uh, if you disagree with any of the people in the chat room with whom I conversed, leave it in the comment section as well. But just make sure to be civil and make sure you attack the person's argument and not the person themselves when you leave those comments. All right, guys. Thank you. Take care. Good night and good day to you on the other side of the world. Thanks.